Hi everyone, welcome to yet another edition of the Community Office Hours here at Moderne, where we talk about everything that's new with Moderne and Open Rewrite, and from there dive into a deeper topic for this week. As usually, I'm your host Tim Twick, and with me is my co-host Sam.
Hello,
And
everyone.
let's see of what all is new this week in particular. So I'll take you to a couple tabs, as always. And first thing that's new is we have a new release. We did not just one, but two release trains today. We halfway through the second one. That kind of tells you that there was a small hiccup in our release schedule, where unfortunately someone very quickly pointed out that we had a Java 17 dependency on some recipes, which we really didn't intend to do. So we're back to supporting your runs on Java 8 with all of these latest versions of Open Rewrite and the Maven plugin. And
Wait, I missed that. What was the regression that caused us to temporarily require Java 17, even in Java 8 context?
That was a pretty neat one. So remember last week when I was explaining the virtues of having the rewrite third-party module, which bundles together some recipes from external sources? That is still something that I heartily recommend. But the recipes that we pull in, they have a Java 17 dependency. So you can't just run that if you're on Java 8 still. So what you would need to do is first run our recipes to get you on 17, and then you can use all of these recipes. Or at the very least, runtime be Java 17. So yeah, that's a small fix. Was very quickly pointed out by someone I hadn't met before, but that's the thing with putting out a bug. You'll get folks to let you know that you shouldn't have done it. So that's been fixed, and you can now use the very latest release train that we have. And there's another very small fix coming up with yet another small partial bug squashed. So that's new. And then some of the things new in this release are heavy changes in the rewrite logging framework, where we added support for moving away from some more Java util logging methods. So in the past, we would already migrate the named methods like logging.info and move those over to log4j and from there to slf4j if you wanted to. But there was also a method that we missed, and this has been very kindly pointed out. And then WashTech, he produced some tests for this, and then this weekend we implemented that mostly with the newer faster style recipes. So very neat to have those migrated. And as part of like a collaboration between the community and myself, just trying to get things moving, getting all the way back what we started with in 2016, helping you migrate between logging frameworks. Pretty neat that we can still do that, but we can do so even easier with the way that we develop recipes nowadays. So go look for that. And then there's also been quite some activity around our rewrite testing frameworks, where we have I think 3 parallel efforts to help you migrate away from TestNG, together with the community, trying to get all of that in line in such a way that you are able to get in some way or another. There's some open PRs as well on that front, so we're not done yet, but this should help you get on the way to get towards TestNG. And from there, using the most expressive way of using assertions with assert.j. So that's also been improved. One small change has already been reverted, as I said, where we can't use the rewrite third party, but it should also work. So have a look at that, and then let me know how that works out for you. And another new thing this week is that we put out our monthly newsletter. So if you want to read all that is new and get a nice overview of things that you might have missed in the past month, then you can go to linkedin.com and there you can view our newsletter. And I'll post a link in the chat as well. If you want to go there, then you can see everything is new. But if you're a regular viewer, you've probably seen some of this already. So go read that, and you can also subscribe on LinkedIn, and then you can get this subscription once a month. It's just a quick overview that you can also share with colleagues if there's anything that you want to bring up to them. Now with that, we also put out a new video. This video will help you migrate away from older testing libraries and really consolidate on using AssertJ only. So we have a small demo here where we take you through moving away from JUnit, but also moving away from Hemcrest further down, and then making it such that everything is using at least JUnit 5 and AssertJ to run your test. So if you want to see a very quick video on all of that, then go to youtube.com and watch this channel. Now we've also put out a new blog post, which is a topic we'll cover on the community office hours probably next week or the week after, where we take you through what we've done with the new recipe builder. So if you've not yet tried it out, go to app.moderne.io and /builder. There you can see this builder that we now have to help you visualize all the recipes and how they compose together, and also allow you from there to modify those recipes with a very easy UI to help add nodes to this whole tree. And then in this blog, we take you through some of the deliberations that we had in how do we visualize this, and also some of the technical details. Because we've had feedback from customers that saw the UI and wanted something similar for their own use cases. Not related to Moderne, but just something to visualize reliably in a 3D space. So we also take you through that in this blog. So have a look at that if you want to read it. I'll share the link again in the notes here. And then from there, you have a better idea of what goes into the builder and how that might help you develop new recipes going forward. Now, together with the newsletter, we also put out a maybe summer checklist that you could run through on your end. So this summer, you might find that some of your colleagues are around, and there's maybe not as much items on the backlog right now, but there is, of course, a lot of things that you could be doing to really take full advantage of not having a lot of conflicts right now. So if you want to get your Spring Boot 3.3 upgrade in there, or maybe move to Java 21, then this would be the perfect time to do so, especially since we have that promotion going for the Moderne CLI, which we'll go into more detail later on this call. Where if you go to the bit.ly link that I'll share here as well, then you can get access to the Moderne CLI, and from there run all these recipes across your entire organization in just a couple of minutes and see the results and push those up. And yeah, have your colleagues be amazed when they come back from holiday on all the things you've done. Now, finally, we again are going to present at the UberConf in just under a month, where we'll have no less than 4 different sessions that you could visit to see all the things that are new at Moderne and in Open Rewrite, and where we think that those might be headed. So have a look at that as well. If you just go to uberconf.com/sessions, you'll see just 3 colleagues just showing all the things that will be new and presented there. So then that is all that is new on the past couple of weeks, past week. And with that, let's dive into one topic in particular. And this week, that topic is going to be the Moderne CLI. So for those who might not be familiar, we at Moderne have developed a Moderne CLI, which will help you run recipes again on your local machine. I'll share a very quick link, and I'll show the tab as well. And share screen. Where you now have another option to help you run those recipes locally on your own machine without any connection to Moderne by using the Moderne CLI. And that's also something that integrates with the Moderne IntelliJ plugin that we demoed here 2 or 3 weeks ago, such that you're better able to run these recipes and run them very quickly as well. And I'll take you through a bit of a demo there. But the main takeaway is that you're able to run recipes very quickly because we serialize them all. And then you're able to run those recipes against not just one project, but a group of projects that you might be targeting. So that is perfect if you want to do some of those really large migrations that you want to do across the board. So your Java 21 upgrades, or your common static analysis issues, fixes. All of those you can execute very rapidly with the Moderne CLI. And the best place to get started is to go to our docs at moderne.io, where you can get a bit of an insight into the Moderne CLI. And I'll take you through some of the steps that we run through typically in using that CLI here at Moderne. And for that, I'm going to show you a different screen, which is just a terminal showing you exactly how the flow would be if you were to use that Moderne CLI. So right now you're looking at a not very special terminal that I have, which will show you exactly
Can you make the font size
what
bigger?
is available. Absolutely. Let's try this one. Isn't the screen? Yeah. So if you install the Moderne CLI, you get a new command that you're able to run, and that command is just mod, mod, short for modern, where we allow you to run recipes, but also build LFTs and run arbitrary commands, and all of that across different repositories. You'll also see that we have a copy of various Git operations that you can run. And let's get started with just running one of these commands very quickly. In this case, against a subset of Apache Maven project. If you've known me for a while, you know that I love to use the Apache Maven project as something that you can run recipes against with Open Rewrite and help them automate away some of the pain that they're facing. It's a nearly 20-year-old application. So what you can see is here I have a subset of 6 different projects. And then the first thing that you might want to be doing when you get started in the morning or pick up the project after a while again is to just pull down the latest versions of all of these repositories. And the syntax to do exactly that is to execute mod, and then from there select our Git operations, and then the familiar Git pull. And then the last one is new. So when I say that we do operations against a multiple repositories, you have to give it a path of where you want it to execute. And I just give it the current path, /. And from there, we will figure out that there are exactly 6 projects in this repository. And we're able to do a Git pull across all of those repositories very quickly. This is perfect if you, like me, are on a distributed team with some folks active long past you go to bed. And then in the morning, you want to pull down all the latest changes. So then all you have to do is to mod Git pull. And then you can even tell it to just download, discover all the repositories that you have in your workspace. And from there, be sure that you're working with the very latest versions. That's something that I quite like. Just for this, I would already be a fan of the Moderne CLI. But of course, there's a lot more that we can do. And that becomes apparent when you want to start to run recipes. And to run recipes with the Moderne CLI, you first need to get a serialized LST loaded onto disk. And the way that you can do that is twofold. There is the mod build command that will allow you to either create a new serialized model on disk or allow you to download an existing LST model from an Artifactory instance to your local machine. So if we go to mod build and then run -help, you'll find that it takes in a path, and from there it has various options. So you can either tell it to run across a selection of repositories with the repository arguments that we have here, or you can tell it to only download new LSTs from maybe an overnight build that we do with the Moderne platform, or you can tell it to not download any LSTs and always do a fresh build of your repository. Now, the last one, that is ideal if you are just getting started with the CLI and you might not have any LSTs just yet. And you just want to get some LSTs going such that you can start to operate across multiple repositories. So in my case, what I've done is I've already downloaded all the Moderne LSTs for these repositories by using the mod build // and then -- download only. So what that gives me is a modern folder in all of these repositories, which I can show you here. Modern. And then all of them have a build folder containing the serialized LST, and all of them have a run folder for if you want to run a particular recipe, have already run a particular recipe, and want to inspect the results, maybe produce a data table. All of that is available here. So that's the .modern folder in each of these projects. So then, having already a recipe with the LSPs already present, let's look at running a recipe from the checklist that we had on the summer 2024 migration guide. So in this case, we know that the Apache Maven is looking to migrate to Java 17. And for that, we can run a recipe for the upgrade to Java 17. I need to first find the exact name of that recipe, but we also have an option in the configuration classes, more config recipes search, and then say Java 17. And you'll see that there is a upgrade to Java 17 recipe, where which I can select, and there's a couple of other variants as well. But let's, in this case, take the first option, and let's set it as the active recipe. So what that then does is it makes it available to run through a shorthand that we have here. So often when we run commands with the Moderne CLI, there will be some logical next step for you to take. And we do our best to make that available as a suggestion at the end of the recipe run. So in this case, we have selected the recipe, and it is quite to be expected that you'd also want to run it. So what we can now do is run this one particular recipe with a shorthand. And if you already know the recipe that you want to run and it's a different one, you can also fully qualify the recipe. So let's run this one particular recipe against all these Apache Maven projects. And you'll find that we will be using the LSTs that we already have on disk, and then very quickly start to execute those recipes. So in this case, the first one isn't working because we have some local changes. The second one is some error. Let's try to see if the third one actually comes up. But the thing to note here is that it's a lot quicker to start executing these recipes. I'm trying to see what the error is. It's failing to produce the diff to HTML link that we have. So that's something that I installed on my machine, even though I wasn't a requirement in the past. But
it still shouldn't be a requirement. I'm actually getting a similar error. I think that's just something we have to fix.
So that's a bit unfortunate, but we did produce the results already. So we when we run these recipes in this way, we're not going to immediately change your files on disk. We are going to create a patch file that we offer you to apply on your machine. We can do so with not git apply. We again have to apply it to a folder containing repositories, and from there you can say last recipe run. And that should then apply the files that were produced in the last recipe run. We can print out a single diff here, where you can see that indeed we have changed some settings to move from Java 8 to Java 17 in this last project. And we can also see that if we go to the Maven Surefire project, and that we run a regular git diff. Which was the project that was changed? It was the Maven parent instead. So here you see the familiar changes that you would expect when you move to a Java 17 from Java 8. And indeed, bumping the Java version and setting the compiler flags for there. And then what we can do from here, having some local changes applied, is actually commit those changes up to a branch. And for that, we can use the mod git branch for all the projects that we find in this Maven subset. And then might be, we said upgrade to Java 17. Mod git checkout. Okay, what am I doing now?
Did you already specify the branch name?
Yeah, it's in here.
Well, does that have to come before the -b?
It should be like we
So
have some
it says
examples.
specify the path as well as the branch to check out.
Mm-hmm.
And then it might be like modget checkout dot upgrade to Java 17 then -b. Yeah, like that. Try that. Okay, never mind. That was my best guess.
Oh. I know it's worked in the past, but it's a weird demo effect when you start to show it here. I think we can all, I think we can all see how this would. I might just passing in. Is that it? Yes, I should have passed in the last recipe run option. It's I have a limited view on my repositories, and it's telling me that we were missing that one option. So we got the order right, and then just the error was not shown in this limited view. So what we've now done is
it's like coding with blinders on. You can't see all of the context you're used to when you're in demo mode.
Yeah, it's having a 4K screen and using just a tiny percentage of it for a demo is not the best experience for me already. But at least it's nice and visible in YouTube, I imagine.
That's the important thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we have our branches checked out for each of these projects. And what we can now do is create a commit. And for that, we're going to run again. And I think we need to specify, in this case, a message that we want to pass in, right?
I assume so, yeah.
So let's give it a message, upgrade to Java 17. And then this likely needs some kind of Jira identifier, which I don't have ready right now. But now we have actually created a commit to all of these projects. And that's a great next step, is to now push those up to GitHub. So we have our branches. And from there, we probably, in this case, I don't have write access to Apache Maven. So we'd have to fudge things just a bit. What you could do in this case is either do a mod git push, and from there create your branches, or you can use mod to use the GitHub CLI to create pull requests. So if you do mod exec, then -- to say that every next operation should be a command passed in verbatim. Then you can say, give me a new pull request for all of these repositories and all the changes that we've pushed up. And the name of the pull request should be upgrade to Java 17. And then if you run this, you'll have pushed up 5 branches and created 5 pull requests in just under a couple of minutes. And the neat thing is that this scales endlessly. So in this case, I have just 6 projects in here. But I could just as well have done the same with the full set of Apache Maven projects and created just under 100 pull requests in just a couple of minutes. That is something that is, I think, really helpful to get your projects moving. from whatever version of Java you are on to the version that you want to be on. So
Yeah,
that's quite neat to see. But there's a couple more features that are unique to using the Moderne CLI, such as the option to add arguments for your recipes while they run. And this is something that it came up on the open source side as well for the past week. But we feel that it is very useful for the CLI, where you might want to run a single recipe very quickly and give it some arguments. So in this case, for the Apache Maven projects, I might be interested to upgrade the parent version and set it to the very latest that's available. So we can do that by giving the recipe name and giving it a couple of options. We can see this again, applied at scale to all these projects. You'll notice that we're still on the upgrade to Java 17 branch, but we could switch that back or make it part of the same PR here. And we'll see if this produces any results. For this particular subset, I know it has changes on the larger subset. It's just no changes here, but know that this is something that is very helpful if you have just a small thing that you want to run across a set of repositories, but it is a configurable recipe. It needs a couple of arguments that you maybe don't want to push into a rewrite YAML file. You just want to apply them from the command line. And, this is a very quick way to do it that way. So, and now, of course, using the pre-built LSPs that we have, you can do this very quickly. With Open Rewrite, that would take you 5 minutes per project. Right now, you can see that I can run this in a couple seconds for all of them. So very helpful bit of extra that you can do with this CLI. There's a couple more features that we can show you. One of them is that you can also use the CLI to extract insights from your projects by producing data tables. And for that, we can run a different recipe. I'm going to try to find it first. There's mod config recipe search vulnerabilities. We have a recipe specifically to find and fix vulnerable dependencies.
There you go, number 3.
The one I'm asking. And what this will do is the same as maybe you've seen it done in the Moderne platform, or you've maybe run it through the Open Rewrite plugin. But the neat thing to using it with the Moderne CLI is that you also get the option to export a data table of the findings that we cannot automatically fix for you. So what we can do now is, again, run this active recipe on this set of repositories. And what it will do is it will find any dependencies that you have, not just the direct dependencies, but also any transitive dependencies, and the versions that you're using for each of those dependencies, and then cross-check that against the GitHub advisory database, which is itself an aggregate of multiple other advisory databases. And from there, figure out if there's any vulnerable dependencies that you might be using. And if so, it will bump any vulnerable dependencies that can be fixed by just upgrading the patch version. So if you're familiar with the semantic version, where you have the major, minor, patch, it will only automatically make code changes for that patch version. But you are able to export a data table of vulnerable dependencies or transitive dependencies that you are using, which need maybe a minor version upgrade or a major version upgrade, or they are maybe vulnerable without there being a patched dependency version available. And for that, we can look at the data table that we have for this particular set of repositories. And it's, again, suggested as something to run next after having run the recipe itself. That we invoke mod study, which is a way of exploiting those results, allowing you to study exactly these results in isolation outside of what you can do with the CLI itself. And for that, it's now going to take the recipe runs that we already did. And you can see that we produced 6 rows for this particular Maven dependency plugin project, which are vulnerable dependencies that cannot be solved immediately with just a patch removal, but actually need a major or minor version bump. And I'll try to open the Excel file, and I'll quickly switch to that. And here you can see that this particular project, it is using the vulnerable versions of DOM4j, Apache Velocity, and a couple other common bean utils, where in this case, we can find that it is using version 0.4, whereas there would be a fix if they were to go to 0.5. And that fix in particular fixes this vulnerability type. And we also have the vulnerability code attached to it. So if you want to know more, then you can look up this identifier or this one, and then you can see that in this case, they should go from 1.7.0 to 1.9.4. Something that should be rather trivial to fix, but it is probably a good idea to get this type of insight from doing such a recipe run, and then from there, plan your next move. So one case of vulnerabilities that I quite like is this step, where you can see that there are vulnerabilities in there. There's not actually a fixed version available for these vulnerabilities. So this is where you probably want to do some alternative ways of remediating these issues by making sure that you're not using vulnerable code paths, or maybe move away from a particular dependency towards something else, which does not have these vulnerabilities as part of the dependency itself.
Yeah, or as is often the case with vulnerability, some particular usage pattern is often required to actually be exposed to the vulnerability. Most things, just having a vulnerable dependency in your class path doesn't automatically mean that there's something exploitable about your application. But having an entry in here would be a sign that there was something for you to investigate and be sure that you didn't have a dependency or have a problem due to that dependency. And I think everyone, watching us in these community office hours can already kind of imagine a glorious future where when a new security vulnerability is announced to the world, that the security researchers or white hats involved in that disclosure, or the vendors who produce the libraries, work together to have an open rewrite recipe ready to migrate to detect, and if applicable, remediate the vulnerability in question, so that maybe the next time that there's a major heartbleed or a log4shell or something like that, out with the disclosure comes the recipe that fixes it everywhere, so that we could, as an industry, hopefully get into a situation where the time between 0 day and 0 vulnerable repositories is shrunk down to almost nothing. That's the dream anyway. So I hope that everyone listening with us shares that dream, and maybe contributes a recipe to fix a security problem, or help with an upgrade. Yeah, I know you guys are all on board for that, or you wouldn't be here. So thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just very neat to see where we stand now with the tooling that we offer, and of course we offer this for free to any open source project to use as well, such that if a new vulnerability comes out, we are in the best shape to help projects move at scale and really get those fixes in. So something it's weird to say looking forward to, but you hope to be useful when you can in helping folks move when they really have to.
Yeah, it's like someone working in disaster preparedness at FEMA, perhaps in America, is like, oh, I don't want a flood to happen, but we've reinforced the levees, like we're ready if it does.
Mm-hmm. You've prepared all you can, and you're ready to go when there's a need to do so.
Exactly. Did you have any
So
other CLI stuff you wanted to show, Tim, or should I show off debugging a recipe?
It's maybe neat if you could show debugging. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, cool.
No,
I will do that. So, 1 second. Sorry for being slow on the screen share. Okay, so I mean, we've talked about using the CLI to run recipes, and I've mentioned on a previous community office hours that was focused on recipe development how you could use the CLI to debug a recipe against, not just your unit tests, but real code that you have just out there in some Git repository. As you will always find things in real code repositories that you didn't anticipate, even if you are an imaginative and thorough author of unit tests. The variety of the real world will always be there to surprise you. So it can be very useful for developing a high quality recipe quickly to test your recipe against some code. And just as an example of that, I have here a repository. Uh, and I'm going to run the textual find recipe just to find this XMX, which is often may appear in a variety of different configuration files or in code and be indicative of JVM maximum heap memory size. So you might want to run this on a repository to find anywhere anything that could possibly be a reference to configuring a JVM's heap. And but if the thing I was interested in was debugging the textual find recipe itself, well, you can add on this JVM debug argument to your mod run. And then right at the beginning, when the recipe starts up, well, after I disambiguate which find recipe I want and select number 2 in this case, it will pause and say, waiting for remote debugger to attach on the default port is 5005, but you could also specify an alternate port if 5005 was in use by some other process on your system. So then over in IntelliJ, I have a copy of that. Well, I don't have a copy of. I have that recipe loaded up in my editor, and I could place a breakpoint in there, and you can create a debug configuration. And I already have one created, but let's start. Pretend we're starting from scratch here. If you don't already have a remote JVM debug configuration set up in your IDE, in IntelliJ, at least, you go to Add New Configuration, select Remote JVM Debug, and it actually defaults to port 5005. So these are all of the appropriate settings, even with no further modification or customization of this screen. But the main thing is to get the port right. And if you were connecting a remote debugger through any other means, I don't know, Eclipse or just anything that isn't IntelliJ, this is the connection string that you would use to connect that debugger, agent lib, socket, etc., etc. So with that set up, just click the debug button, and you should see, that it's connected to the target VM, and very shortly thereafter, like boom, our breakpoint gets hit, and we can step through and see how this recipe operates on a real repository. In this case, I just happen to be running on Netflix's Zool repository. And so I could search through here and see if this recipe is doing what I want it to do. And let's see, we could even put a breakpoint ahead and wait until we are going to get a match of some kind, and see how the results look. Yeah, and so in this case, I can see just in the debugger that, this has found a match for the search string in question, and I could go and debug it, step through the recipe, see how it operates on real code, see if there's any bugs that need resolving, run it across, a bunch of repositories if you're not sure if there's going to be a hit or not. It's a nice thing about the CLI, since it's a very multi-repository in its nature, that for something like a search or running a recipe where you're not sure if you're going to get changes or not, that you can just run it across a whole big selection of code. Uh, and hit breakpoints even for your interesting and esoteric edge cases. So that's all I wanted to really wanted to be sure we showed off, because I do this a lot when developing a new recipe. I'll work on the recipe, I'll publish it to Maven Local, we'll add it to the CLI, and I'll try running it on some real repositories so that I can debug through any edge cases that I had not already considered. So I encourage all of you recipe authors out there to give this a try, so that you discover the recipe bugs before your users do. That's the dream anyway.
And
Exactly.
that's also what we've come to recommend. Like we get a lot more interest from the open source community to help develop recipes these days. And then, of course, they have their own challenges. They have their own projects that they want to try things out on. And then using that combination of the IntelliJ plugin and the Moderne CLI really allows you to speed that up. So if you want to get access to that combination, then have a look at this QR code. We will help you set things up. You'll get an email from us with a license key and instructions on how to get going. And then you can start to do all the things that you saw us do. To really work through this checklist that we put out to help you migrate your Spring Boot applications, your Java 21 applications, to all the things that you want to do over this summer to really be in the best shape possible going into the fall. So yeah, that's I think pretty much what we have for this week. Is there anything you want to add, Bill?
No, I think that was good stuff. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Hopefully, you found this fun and useful, and we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, cheers. So looking ahead, we hope to have a presentation next week on the new recipe builder, but we'll keep you posted through our socials on what exactly you can expect from us. Hope to see you then. Thanks all.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.
Bye.